Okay, good afternoon. Today we are going to do a simple Adobe XD workshop to design a simple e-commerce app. So let's take a look at the app that we want to build today. So over here you can see that we are going to build three artboards: the home page, the listing page, and the products page. And the preview of the app looks like this. Over here you can see the app that scroll up to view more products, and at the bottom of the page you have this tab bar, and on the top of the page you also have this search bar and the shopping cart and so on. So let's say, for example, the user wants to navigate to the listing page. He can click on one of the buttons here and he can go over to the listing page where he can see a list of the products that are offered. So for example, if he wants to look at a particular product over here, he can click on this product to display the list of products that are shown in this offering. And let's say if he wants to go back, he can click on the back button to go back to the previous page and so on. Let's create a new project from scratch. We'll open the file, new, option, and we can see a list of the artboards that we can create by default: the iPhone 12, web, or Instagram, or custom sizes. So let's select the iPhone 12 Pro Max as our default artboard. So as you can see over here, this is the default layout, the empty artboard in the center. On the left is a list of all the tools that we can use to create the drawing. On the right is a list of the properties of the items on the artboard. And on the bottom corner, you can see a list of the libraries and the plugins and the layers that we can use. So as a start, let's choose a artboard over here. We're going to do a low-fi drawing, and let's create a rectangle option. Select a rectangle option to create a rectangle in the middle of the page. So let's create a rectangle. And over here, you can see that the rectangle can be selected in a different way. On the corners of the rectangle, you can see a number of small circles. So these small circles allows you to resize the rectangle or change the dimensions of the rectangle. On the inner corner of the rectangle, you can see that there is a list of numbers of smaller circles in between the corners of the rectangle. So you can select the circle over here and you can drag to change the corners of the rectangle into rounded corners. And if you want to be more precise, you can actually change the size of the rounded corners, the radius, as according to the numbers that you want. So for example, let's change the corner of the rectangle radius to 20 pixels. And now you can see that the rectangle is becoming more rounded. And let's say if you want to change it back to a smaller radius, and now it becomes less rounded. Next, we're going to add the text to this button. So assuming we select the text option and we put the cursor in the center of the button and we add the text submit. After that, we can reposition the text in the center of the button, and you can see that the red highlighted lines are shown on the screen, indicating in the center of the button. So once this is done, we can actually save the button, and let's try to move the button to another position. So when we shift the button, we notice that only the rectangle is moving, but the text is not moving. Why is this so? Because you can see that the rectangle and the text is actually two separate items, two separate things. So we can actually put the texts and the button together in a single position. And once we position together, select both the text and the rectangle, and let's group the two items together so that it becomes a single item. So now we can actually change the position of the button, and the text will move along with the rectangle itself. Okay, so let's give our group of rectangle and the text a name. So let's give it a name. We call it button. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to create is a tab bar. So let's draw a rectangle to represent the tab bar. Okay, so now we have the rectangle representing the tab bar on the screen. Okay, so let's add the tabs inside the tab bar. So let's draw another rectangle here to represent a tab inside the tab bar. Okay, so let's give this tab button circle to represent an image inside the rectangle. So click on the circle option, and over here put the cursor in the center of the rectangle for the tab bar button. And this time round, in order to make sure that the circle is fully round, you have to press the shift key and drag from the center of the screen. Oops, you can see that the tab button, the circle is not centralized in the center of the screen. So what you can do is you can simply try to redraw the circle again in the center of the rectangle. Press the shift and the alternate or option key to drag the circle that represents the image of the tab bar. Okay, and when you let go, you can see that now the circle or the ellipse is a complete circle and is rightfully positioned in the middle of the page. Okay, in the middle of the tab bar button. So let's group these two items together, the ellipse and the rectangle tree, to become a tab bar item. So let's call this the tab bar item that consists of an ellipse, and we can call it the image, and the rectangle, which is the tab itself. Okay, so now we have one tab bar item ready, and we're going to create additional total 4 tab bar items inside this tab bar. So let's create a duplicate of this item here, of the tab bar item, duplicate, and once you have done, you can see that you can actually create a exact duplicate of this tab bar item of the same size, same dimension on the screen. So let's duplicate another 2 more tab bar items. Notice that when you drag along the screen, you can see the pink color region that appears. It shows that the position of the tab bar items is now equal distance between the other tab bar items. Okay, so let's drag, create or duplicate one more tab bar item so that we have a total of 4 tab bar items. Okay, so now let's say we are happy with this thing. We want to rearrange to make sure that the tab bar items is equally distributed across the tab bar. So in this case, the tab bar have 4 buttons, but there is some space remaining on the right hand side of the tab bar. So what you can do is you can actually reposition the tab bar items so that it is rightfully placed equally on the tab bar itself. And to make sure all of them are properly spaced out, you can select all the tab bar items and look for this option on the right of the property panel called attribute distribute horizontally. Okay, so once you click on this one, you can see that now all the tab bar items are distributed equally across this tab bar itself. Now we have created the tab bar and the submit button. Let's recreate the rest of the items on the main page of the Shopee app. So let's resize the page and we can make sure the page is able to show all the items on the artboard. So let's group all the tab bar items together as a single tab. So make sure all the tab bar items are selected. Make sure you can press and select all the tab bar items. All 4 tab bar items selected and group them together as, and also the rectangle, and group all the 5 items together as a single item called tab bar. Okay, so make sure that all the tabs and the tab bar items are listed inside this tab bar. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to shift the tab bar to the bottom of the page so that it is the same as the actual Shopee app. You can place the submit button somewhere where you want to do the submission. Okay, next we are going to create a search bar over here. So let's create a rectangle to represent the search bar. And we have 2 more buttons on the right hand side for the add to cart and also the other items. Okay, so let's add a button for the add to cart button, and let's duplicate this to create another button here. Of course, we can do up the dimensions properly later on if we have the time. Okay, so now I have the search bar and the shopping add to cart and the chat button and so on. So you can actually put the text over here to indicate that it is a search bar. And also the chat if you want. This is the chat. And this is, I think, the other button called cart. Okay, so let's say if you want to make this search bar more realistic, you can actually draw a icon for a search bar over here. So let's try to make this search bar more closer, more authentic. So let's try to recreate a search bar icon, which is a magnifying glass. So let's create a circle, pressing the shift key on the ellipse option to create a circle. So in this case, we have created a circle here. And let's change and also add a handle for the circle so that we can have a handle to the magnifying glass. Okay, so now this magnifying glass and the circle, we can group them together, and we can actually give it a name for this group. Let's call this search icon. Okay, so this is the search icon that we have just created. Oops. Let's select the search icon. Okay, so the search icon, we can actually try to change the thickness of the icon so that make it a little bit more thicker. So let's change the size of the border for this rectangle, and we change it to maybe pixel 3. So now the search icon is becoming more better, and it looks a bit more authentic and so on. Of course, you can make it smaller if you want. You can try and make it smaller using the circle ellipse. You can try and make it smaller. And you can reposition the icon also. Of course, the line is do some touching up. Okay, so now I have a very simple search bar, the check icon and the card icon over here. Okay, so this is a very simple low fidelity wireframe designed for the main page of the Shopee app. Okay, so we can do the same for the other pages. Using the same ideas that we have covered just now, we can actually draw the wireframe diagram of the main page as shown over here with different parts of the main page of the Shopee app. As you can see, if you compare it with the Shopee app over here, so you have the main page, which looks something like this, and the artboard that you have over here. Okay, so basically these are the simplified versions of the actual artboard that you can see on the home page. So next we are going to add another page for the listing page for the wireframe diagram. To do that is quite straightforward. So what we can do is we can just simply add another artboard. Let's rename this original artboard first to change the name as main page. So now we are ready to add a new artboard. So we can add a new artboard by selecting new artboard here. So over here, the artboard, you can just click on the button A to create a new artboard. So by default, you can choose the artboards available for different form factors like mobile, tablets, or desktops. So let's choose the same artboard for iPhone 12 Pro Max. And now we have two new artboards over here. So one is for the listing page, and the other one is for the product page. So to keep things simpler, let's focus on the second artboard for the listing page. So let's rename it to listing page, and we can create the artboard similar to what we have done for the main page over here. So after creating the artboards for the listing page and the products page, this is what we will get after the new artboards have been created. So let's compare it with the actual Shopee app that we have shown over here. So the home page, the listing page, and the products page, which looks correspondingly like this: home page, listing page, and product page. And to notice that the listing page and the home page, actually we can scroll up and down to reveal more items that is not shown on the phone devices. Okay, so how do we do that on the Adobe XD? It's quite straightforward. So let's look at the listing page over here. So we only have created two products over here in this case. So in order for us to create more products that we want to list and scroll up over here, what we can do is we can actually duplicate the product items over here. But there is a faster and more efficient way in Adobe XD. It's called the repeat grid option. So let's select the two products that we have over here using the shift key to select multiple two products. Okay, so now we have the two product items over here, and what we're going to do is let's go over to the top right corner and select this option called the repeat grid. Okay, so once you select the repeat grid, you are actually grouping these two items together as a grid. And notice that on the bottom and the right side of the grid, you can actually see two highlighted green buttons which you can drag. So let's drag this bottom green button below, and notice that it will automatically populate the bottom with more of the same two item products that you have created in the grid just now. So let's drag on continuously until maybe let's stop over here. So we have created additional 6 more products, 3 more rows, total 4 rows of products that you can see over here. Okay, and notice that the iPhone 12 Pro Max device is up to this height, and whatever that is not shown over here can be actually indicated by a slight blur image of this semi-transparent product list over here. So this is the item that you can see up to this point. So if you do a preview of the device, you can see the item is up to here. Okay, you can't see the last row, the 4th row item below. So how do you actually make it appear that the last row to be viewable using the scrolling option? So that is again very simple. We just need to extend the size of the listing page over here. So let's select the listing page and put our mouse cursor below and drag the listing page to fill up the rest of the items that are not viewable below the products lists. So now you can see that the listing page has been extended. There is a equal button over here with a dashed line. So this will indicate the limits of the lower limits of the iPhone 12 Pro Max device form factor. Okay, so now with this selected, you can actually click on the preview button, and you can see now your products can be scrolled up and down. Okay, quite straightforward. Okay, so this is a very easy way to be used by Adobe XD to actually do the scrolling up and down, in this case to make it scrollable. Okay, so we can also do some additional improvements. Notice that when we try to scroll the product list up and down, the list options and the search bar and the filter, it will also be scrolled and hidden below. So if we want to make sure that the search bar and the back button and the filter option is actually static when we actually scroll up. So we do not want the search bar and the filter to be hidden, to be scrolled along with the rest of the pages, so it will look a bit less intuitive. So what we can do is over here we can select the items that we do not want to be scrolled. Okay, so for example, let's go over to the listing page. We select the back button. We want to keep it there. We also want to keep the search bar. In this case, a search bar. We want to keep the back button. We want to keep the filter button also. Okay, so all these things that we want to keep, we will actually highlight them. Okay, the search bar, the filter, and the back button. So once these items are selected, we want to keep it there so that it will not be scrolled and covered along. So what we can do is we can go over here and select the fixed option, fixed position when scrolling option. Okay, so now with this selected, we can go over to preview our app. And now when we scroll the app, you notice that the back button is no longer scrolling. The search bar also is not scrolling, but it is kind of like hidden below the rest of the options. Okay, it's hidden below the rest of the options. Why is this so? Because over here, if you notice that your search bar and the filter is right at the bottom of the list of items. So all the other items like the options and the other product grid will cover the search bar and the filter even though they are not moving, because they are on the top above the filter button and the rectangle for the search bar. So in order to make sure that they are not covered when they are scrolled, what we need to do is we need to bring the filter and the rectangle and the search bar to the top, just below the back button. So let's able to work by now. So if you scroll it now, you should be able to see the search bar and the filter remain static, and the rest of the items will scroll just below it. Okay, so quite straightforward. So we can also do the same thing for the rest of the page, like the home page. So let's do the same for the home page. We want to have more deals appearing when we want to scroll up the page. So let's do the same thing over here. We select the deals options, and maybe let's expand the size of the home page for now. So let's increase the size of the home page. Okay, so next what we'll do is we'll highlight the deals that we want to repeat as part of the repeat grid, and let's select the two deals and we click on the repeat grid option, and now these two items, the grid such deals can be actually repeated. Okay, so let's drag the deals grid below so that it will be able to replicate to the rest of the items. Okay, so let's keep it simple. Let's create another 2 rows, so total 3 rows of deals, and let's reposition the artboard so that we can change the deals to be able to see the rest of the items. Okay, so now I have the deals and the replicated deals as part of the repeat grid and the home page, but we have a slight problem because for the home page now the deals have covered the tab bar. Okay, because your tab bar is over here and your deals I believe is over here, so we need to bring the tab bar on top of the repeat grid so that it will not be covered by the deals. So let's bring the tab bar to the top, and now you can see the tab bar is over here. So let's preview this page, and now if we scroll this thing, okay, we can see the deals are scrolling, but we still have to put the tab bar static and also the search bar add to cart, and the chat button to be static. So let's do the same thing here. We'll select the tab bar, and we'll select fixed position when scrolling. And the same thing, we'll select the search bar, the chat, and the cart button. So now we're going to set it to fixed position when scrolling. And same thing, we need to bring it to the top above the repeat grid so that it will not be covered by the deals when we actually do the scrolling. So let's do a check over here. So we scroll and we'll notice that now your search bar, cart, and chat button, the tab bar are no longer covered and will remain static. Okay, so this is almost the finished deal for the wireframe. There's one more thing we have not configured, which is the animation or the prototyping of the transition between the different pages. So in this case, we want the user to be able to click from one page, in this case the home page, to the listing page, and to the products page, and so on. So we can do the transition using the prototype option over here. So let's click on the prototype button, and notice that when you select the prototype option, you will see the artboard changed with a particular button, right arrow on the right side of the artboard. Okay, so we can actually go inside the home page, and we can actually select the part which we want to transition to the listing page. So let's say when the user clicks on the advertisement, we want the user to be able to click the advertisement and go to the listing page. So what we need to do is we just go to the blue button on the right hand side, click and drag this blue button to the listing page, and that's it. We will create a transition between the home page advertisement bar to the listing page over here. Okay, there are some interaction or transitions which you can configure on your own. So by default, the animation for the transition is dissolve. Of course, you can change it to others, like for example, we want to change it to a slide left or slide right, sorry. And let's try to check the transition over here. So now I have the main page, home page. Click on the advertisement. I will go to the search bar or the listing page. So it looks okay. So let's reconfigure the option again, slide left. And we want the button to from the listing page to be able to go back to the home page. So we'll configure the same thing for the listing page. The back button, same thing for the back button listing page. We'll select, click on the right arrow over here and drag it back to the home page. When we click on the back button, it should go back to the home page. And now we have the reverse the animation. So let's check the animation to slide right. Okay, so let's click to preview the changes. Search bar, advertisement, main page, listing page, home page, listing page, home page, listing page, and so on. So it's quite straightforward for the animation to do. So I leave the rest of the animation to you to try for the products page and the listing page. Using the same techniques that you have learned in the earlier low fidelity design, you can also create a high fidelity design using actual images or screen grabs of the actual app on the phone. So all these images can be edited using Adobe Photoshop or a GIMP or any other image editing software. So hope you have enjoyed the session and continue create your own Adobe XD prototypes. Thank you.